Hello, everyone. Welcome to Clarity 16.0.1 Supportability and Feature Training. My name is Dave Sprague. In this section, we're going to cover the adoption and usability capabilities included in this release. There's two components to the features we're going to discuss here. One is from a usability perspective. The drop-down menu component has undergone a styling update. So there's really no functional change. It's a styling update where we removed the dark background that was used in various places, such as the property pages, action menu, right-click menus, roadmap item, investment page action menus. They've all been converted to a lighter themed pull-down. This does help with accessibility from a certain perspective, but in general, this is a usability update to help all users of the Clarity application. There's another piece from an accessibility perspective. The following updates have been made. So one, button tooltips are displayed on keyboard focus. Up until now, the focus was limited to users, mouse users on, kind of mouse over focus. So now as a keyboard user navigates through the button structure, they will get a pop-up tooltip and the screen reader will announce it. And an application level page title is now available. The canvas capability is accessible and compliant from color contrast, keyboard control, and screen reader support. And screen reader support has been added for required fields in the grid layout specifically, but it's also there for the flyout. So why is this important? So each of these accessibility improvements are needed to help drive adoption. Organizations, when they're looking at applications, really demand compliance with accessibility standards so that their users have the proper tools to view and access company-specific details. The Clarity team continues to deliver on a promise to improve the overall visual experience in addition to the accessibility improvements. And the accessibility improvements always cover off on these key tenets of the program, visual design, responsive design, keyboard control, and of course, screen reader support. The Clarity team is pursuing its VPAT, Voluntary Product Accessibility Testing certification to indicate conformance with Section 508. And we do expect to complete that process in fiscal year quarter two, which is essentially we're targeting around the April timeframe. So what's changed? So as I mentioned, the drop-down menu component has changed, and this is a visual perspective, and this is really a slide to catalog on the left-hand side where the changes have been made, and there's a few examples of the visual changes here, comparing and contrasting 16.0 with that of 16.01. So like you're in the staff module, the add staff button, the actions button within the tasks module, for example. So the changes are, obvious once you get into it, and you'll see kind of the light background. Button tooltips are displayed on keyboard focus. In the prior release, of course, the mouse hover presented the tooltip, but now the keyboard focus presents it to the user. And of course, this can be used with or without a screen reader, but the screen reader always did pick it up. It just wasn't visible to the eye. So now, but a keyboard action will present this hover text or the tooltip on keyboard focus. And this page just has a few sample images of where the popover, actually the button tooltip is presented. One of the key things we really wanted to make sure that was resolved was when you're in the grid and you're navigating to either edit the name of the project name, as an example, the investment name. I wanted to make sure that the grid itself upon keyboard expose that tooltip. There is also now what we call an application header page title. So there's a few examples of it on the right-hand side, kind of going from high to low as far as granularity. So when you're looking at a project's grid, for example, then you navigate into that particular um, project. It tells you what module you're on, in this case, a task. And then there's also another example of if you were to navigate to a channel, the page title will also indicate the name of the channel. So this helps users find content and orient themselves by ensuring each application page has a descriptive title. Titles identify the current location without requiring users to read or interpret the page content. So in cases where the page is an application, the name of the document or web application is sufficient to describe the purpose of the page. It's not required to use the name of the application, but we actually have it there. This capability also benefits those with mobility impairments, so whose mode of operation really relies on audio when navigating between pages. And then a browser history becomes very useful by displaying descriptive page titles that have been visited. And this is specifically coming right out of WCAG's success criterion. This is level A requirement that we have resolved. Canvas accessibility. So the canvas used in agreements and status reports is accessible. The Clarity product team really considers accessibility part of its DNA, and each new feature that we deliver, we're really thinking about accessibility being designed in as part of the definition of done. So on the right-hand side here, here's an example of screen reader output when the screen reader tool is kind of in the mode to read from top to bottom, and it will announce the contents of the various portions of the page as it scans and goes through the entire page. So let's get to the demo. I'll talk about or show you, not talk, I'll show you how the button tooltips are displayed using the keyboard. We'll navigate the status report with the use of a keyboard, and then we'll talk about the application level page titles. So let's do that right now. Okay, coming out, I will go to the application. So I'm going to do all this via keyboard. I will tell you the strokes that the keystrokes that I'm making as I do it, just so it becomes obvious that I'm not using my mouse. So let's get started. So first thing I'm going to do here is log in and tab to the put focus on the login button. And I will land on a project grid. That's our first page that's in the system. So my first role is to hit tab. The skip domain content button appears. We put that in place a few releases back. At this point, I'll hit the enter key, and it takes me directly to the plus button. In other words, the main content is our grid here. I do want to call your attention to the help desk displayed on the plus button based on my keyboard focus. So I'll hit tab again, and I'm in my grid, right? So I've got focus on that upper left cell. I'll just use my arrow keys to go down into the grid. I'll use one more arrow key to get over. And the feature that we delivered last release allows us to navigate into a cell that has multiple functions. There's a link there that you would click to get to the keyboard. I'm sorry, to the project. There's also an edit button. So last release, we introduced the ability to select enter to get into the cell, and then tab to navigate the elements of the cell. So here's the example of the um, help text being presented on keyboard focus. If I were to hit return again, it'll take me into the edit mode of this name. I'm not going to do that right now. And again, this is capability that was delivered in the last release. What we're just focused on here is the fact that the help text was presented for navigating into that cell there. So I'm going to hit one more enter one more time. And now I'll do it again because I want to put focus on the name of the project. That's an actual link. So I will hit the enter key or select the enter key to navigate to that project grid. Now, the blueprint has put the tasks or has configured the tasks module to be first on the list. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select tab twice. It's going to bring up skip domain content. I'm going to hit the return button. And then I'm going to do shift tab twice to get back to the menu bar there up top. And now I've got focus on the menu bar. I just used my right arrow key 2 times to put focus on status. And then from there, I will hit select enter to actually open the status report. And then regardless of where I was in that tab, if I hit enter, it's going to take me into that particular module. So now I'm going to hit select tab to go to preview. So I'm now in the status report. I'm going to hit tab one more time to go to the report date. So if I was using a screen reader, I would use the appropriate controls to navigate this top to bottom and have it announce all of the contents from top to bottom. But I'm going to go ahead and just use the down arrow, right? So this is the user navigating through and reviewing the content, right? As I mentioned before, the screen reader itself, if it were in use, it would start navigating the entire page and reading its content. So I'll hit Shift Tab 2 more times to come back out to preview. Shift Tab again to get to status. Shift Tab again to end on the get to the project button on the left navigation there. And with that in focus, I can select return to come back to the project listing. So at this point, I'm going to take control of the mouse with my, the solution with my mouse because I want to show you the page title area. So I'm going to hover on the um, tab up there, and you'll notice that it reads its notes projects. This tells me where I am, right? So titles identify the current location without requiring users to read or interpret the page content. So here's the information that the screen reader would pick up to tell me where I am. I'm going to use my mouse here. I'm going to click into the same project only to come back and hover on that tab. And it's telling us that we're in a particular app, in our case, an investment. It has the name listed there in total, and it tells us what module we're on exactly. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go over to what would be a channel. I'll just go over to select Rally just to highlight again that the page title is adjusting and telling us, we're still in this application, the investment, but we're now on another um, module. This is just an example of a channel that's not out of the box. The next thing I want to do is just kind of click on that return button in the browser. And the interesting thing is that I can hold this down and you can see the history is now the screen reader can pick all this up and read it so it has meaningful information for the end user to select. So this is a function of having those page titles available for the users. Okay, well that concludes the demonstration. Well, that concludes the usability and adoption section. I really appreciate your time and have a great day or evening. Thank you.